So good afternoon, everybody. Juliana, Mario, Gaston, it's a great pleasure to be with you guys in this panel today. I wanted to start just thanking Charles and the Festival of Media for inviting me here. This is the third time that I'm here. And since I came for the first time 3 years ago, I shared a couple of interesting things with the audience, right? First year I came and I talked a little bit about what's going to happen with the internet in Latin America if you take a look on the trends of more mature markets. Last year I spoke a little bit about how the world can be better if people are connected. And this year I came to talk to you a little bit about the people paradigm. In fact, what I wanted to share with you today is what's happening in Latin America and why social is so relevant to our region, as you all saw from Juliana's and Mario's experience. I wanted to start sharing the story of this little girl. And I would like to know who in the audience know who she is. Okay, so this is easier for Brazilians because Isadora, who is 13 years old, she's from a little city called Florianópolis in the south of Brazil. It's not so little, but she lives in Florianópolis. And what Isadora did is that she put together this page on Facebook that it's called Diário de Classe, or the class diary, the truth. And on her own words, the way that she describes the page, it says, "My name is Isadora, I'm 13 years old, and I'm putting this page by myself. What I want is to show the reality of the public school system in Brazil, and I want improvements not only for me, but also to everybody." She's 13 years old. I don't need to say that, in a couple of weeks, this girl, 13 years old, got 300,000 fans on her page. And people were liking because people wanted to know what she had to say about the school system in Brazil. So with a very simple phone, Isadora started taking pictures of what was the reality of her school. Bathroom not working, chairs not really working, all broken, graffitis all around the school. And she not only challenged the government in Brazil, as she really, made the authorities in her little city of Florianópolis to think about the school system in Brazil. And more than that, Isadora really challenged a country with 200 million people, just bringing to the attention what was going on in her school. So I think that Isadora is probably, one of the best examples of this new people paradigm, right? I mean, we are giving, and the social networks are giving the power for people to come up with some information, some ideas, and share that with the world. So here's what happened with this school after a couple of months. Okay, and Isadora, she also fostered a lot of other people across Brazil to come up with those stories. And she's just showing how powerful a cell phone and a connection to the internet can be, with someone with 13 years old. And I think she's a beautiful example. I hope that my daughters follow what she's doing. So, but let's think a little bit about another example. And let's think about, one of the, biggest events that we had in the last couple of months. We had the Olympics. And in London this year, everybody said that London was the social Olympics. Mainly because of the amount of people and the number of people that were connected to the social networks at the same time that they were watching the games. And they were sharing things that were very, very relevant and important to everybody in the, in the social networks. But it's interesting because, people were not only sharing the results or saying, I'm happy because, my team won or because, this guy just beat the record. People were also sharing stories that were relevant to them. Just like the story of Zanardi. Who knows who Zanardi is? So Zanardi is he used to be a Formula 1 driver. He's from Italy. And back in 2001, Zanardi had this horrible crash accident, and he lost his 2 legs. And instead of giving up, Zanardi said, I need to find a sport that I can compete. And with 45 years old, Zanardi won the gold Paralympic medal in hand cycling. He started training a couple of years ago. And it's interesting because, the story of Zanardi, the fact that he won the medal, it's very important, but it's even more important that people really wanted to share this story. And he became an inspiration for a lot of people that saw his story. And this is what's happening. And this is why we believe that the internet and the social networks are really giving the opportunity to democratize all sorts of information. The other interesting thing that happened, and I think that Juliana also spoke a little bit about that, is that for the first time we saw a real integration of the different platforms. Right? We saw a lot of people really consuming internet and just posting their comments and tweeting and following people while they were watching TV. And this is very important. We've been talking about the integration of the platforms for a long time, and never really happened. But for the first time we saw the amount of people sharing information while they're watching the games is just outstanding. So let's see what happened in Latin America. Let's see what's happening in Latin America. This is, I love this picture. This is a real picture taken by one of our engineers showing how many likes how many check-ins in our platform back in 2011. Exactly 1 year ago, when I was in this stage, speaking in the Festival of Media of last year, this is what the platform looked like. So look what happened in just a few months. And this is only this is only check-ins. This is not likes, this is not comments, this is not people uploading pictures. This is only people in Latin America doing their check-ins. And what's a check-in? It's a story. You're building a story. You're telling a story that you are in some place. You are in a restaurant. You are in this event. You are in a cinema. You are in a theater. You are with your friends, and you are sharing this story with someone. This is what happened in March, and this is what happened now. So there is no doubt, and this is a real picture of the check-ins on Facebook. So imagine if we could map the comments, the likes, the pictures uploads. I mean, this picture would be totally white, right? Just because people in Latin America more and more are using and connecting like never before. So imagine the opportunity, and if we saw what happened in London, imagine for you guys working with Latin America, the opportunity that we have working in a region that will receive the two next big events, the World Cup and the Olympic Games in the next 4 years from now. Great opportunities. And the amount of information that you saw, and all of those stories that we are creating, it's building a set of information that is probably the most powerful and interesting set of information. That's what we call the social graph. And the social graph is actually, the combination of all of this information. But when we think about social graph, we're not talking about people connecting with people only. We're also talking about people connecting with things that matter, right? So if I like a brand, if I like a car, I like a brand, I like a bicycle, whatever, I connect with those brands, with those products when I'm offline. And that's reflecting also the behavior that we see now online. And people start building the social graph based on the connections that they have with people and with things that matter. So the evolution of the internet in Latin America and the fact that more and more we're building this social graph, it's making the region extremely, extremely relevant. But also brings, this big challenge for everybody that works with brands and products. Is, and as Mario was saying, how can you connect? How can you be part of the stories that are being built in Latin America when you see this, massive growth? So, what's happening now in Latin America is that not only we see, just like I showed in the picture of the check-ins, not only we're seeing a lot of people using, but also we see that people are engaging a lot in the platform. And this is, more and more important. Forget about the media kits that you see, like from companies saying, I have millions and millions of users. What really matters is if people are not using the platform, but if they are engaging. And, and they're engaging because we're growing very fast. Those are some numbers of a study that we did together with ComScore that shows that, one, Latin America is growing in terms of number of users much faster than the global average. And this is, it's true because of, the economic stability, a lot of the lower classes, going up and coming to the middle class, investment from governments. But the fact is that we're seeing, Latin America, the number of internet users in Latin America growing extremely fast. Not only that, Latins are super social, and this is, we know that it's very intuitive. But if we take a look in the numbers here, just on Facebook in Latin America, 88% of all of the internet users in Latin America, they visit Facebook at least once a month. And I'm talking about Facebook, but this is true also to all of the other social networks. It's just how we show the importance and the relevance of social networks for the region versus 56% in the rest of the world. But another very interesting data here is that in Brazil, for example, when we ask where in what device someone accesses Facebook, and they said that primarily it's mobile and then it's PC. And that's 15% of the population, all of the internet users. So 15% of the internet users in Brazil say that they are using the mobile first and then the PC to access the social networks. So the time spent is also something super relevant. The percentage here is the growth year over year. It's just outstanding that Brazil is almost 800% more in terms of time spent in our platform from one year to the other. And this is basically because of the migration of the previous and old relevant social network that we had in Brazil now, coming to Facebook. But, what's really, really interesting to see is that, out of every single internet users in Latin America, if you think about for every 4 minutes, 1 minute it's spent on Facebook. So I'm saying that 25% of the time of people connected in the internet, they're connecting on Facebook. So again, I think that the biggest challenge that we have right now is, how can we make sure that people engage in the conversation and start talking about the brands when they are on the social networks. And here's something very interesting. And I think I love, this is a fascinating dichotomy, right? So from one side, we live in a world where, information is being, created, nonstop. It's a massive amount of information being created every time. You have the posts, you have videos, you have tweets, you have, people sharing information. But at the same time, the human being didn't really, expand the brain. So we have a limited memory. So the question is, if I work to a brand, if I work with a company, how can I make sure that, my message is relevant when you are like in an ocean of information coming to you all the time? And then I have, two important messages, when you start thinking about this strategy. One, I think it's absolutely, relevant and important that you create content that it's compelling to the users, right? You need to create content that really makes, people want to read that content. And then the second thing is that this content really needs to be important to be shared with the friends. Because when you have, in a world where you have a lot of information but a limited memory, your friends have a very, very important role to help you curate all of this content that you have. So that's why, when we want to consume some content, we go to our friends and see what they like, what they are reading, or what's relevant to them, so that we can really, get that information together. It works more or less like that. So imagine this is a real street. So you're walking the street and you see, like all of those billboards. What's relevant? So if you don't have a decent and very compelling strategy to create the right content, it's very, very hard for you to differentiate. This is a true story. This is not sure who saw this, but this is a billboard that I saw the other day. I was in Mexico going to the airport, and I saw this billboard. And really grabbed my attention. But this is something that's not what we want, right? When you want something to be shared with your friends, the content needs to be relevant. And I'll be honest, I always remember about this billboard, and it really exists on the way to the airport. But I never remember the brand that did this. I always remember the title of the billboard. So a good example here of companies doing this well is Nike in Mexico, for example. The Nike page in Mexico, the Nike football page, they have 1.5 million users or 1.5 million fans. And the strategy that Nike got was 100% based on content that they create to be shared and to be liked online. So when every time that they think about a post, they think, how can I make this post, how can I make this message very relevant so that people will like this and will create this new story, this new social story. And then they start sharing that with other people. Another great example is, the campaign, Thank You Mom, from the Procter & Gamble. Not sure if you guys saw that. But, you know, Procter & Gamble did these fascinating, beautiful TV commercials, you know, just showcasing 4 athletes that were going to the Olympic Games and the relation with their moms. But not only that, and you know, I think that, you know, Procter & Gamble really realized that people are connected to the social networks together with the TV. So they created also this, you know, beautiful application inside Facebook that you could create your own story and share with your friends. And this is the power of having both platforms together. And then, as I said, you know, we in this study, we observed that, you know, nearly 40%, which is very similar to what Juliana showed here today, near 40% of our users, they are on Facebook while they're watching TV. And this is extremely important when you think about your strategy. How can you combine the message, just like Procter & Gamble did with this Thank You Mom advertising? 1/3 when we're talking about male teens, and 30% for women between 18 and 34. So this is extremely relevant, and we're seeing this more and more. The other thing that is very, very important, and also I think we know, we've heard a lot here during this, the last couple of days, is how important it is the mobility, right? So how can you really create content that can be seen no matter what platform you're seeing, right? So that's why, you know, great part of our strategy right now is to make, you know, very easy for you when you create your post, when you create your message, that you can really see in a very, 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 you know, relevant way, no matter if you're on your PC, if you're on your tablet, or if you're on your cell phone. And that's important because 40% of the time people spend on the news feed, and we have almost 115 billion messages being created in the news feed every single day. So with that, and my time is over, I just wanted to, you know, recap and really make sure that you know, you understand the messages here. One, you know, more and more Latin America is becoming extremely relevant, and I think it's very, very important for when you start thinking about the, you know, how relevant and how important Latin America will be for social networks, is for you to really think about the content that you are creating. The content needs to be something compelling, something interesting, something that will make people want to share with their friends. So, and with that, I wanted to thank very much and call Paul again. Thank you.